What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Hockeytown University, here with another episode. You're here with me once again, Zach, and as always, with my lovely co-host, Leslie. Derek has a night off. Hope you feel better, buddy. But Leslie, long time no see. Welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
I feel great, Zach, for being 117 years old. Yeah, great birthday. Get a nice little gift here. Microphone, so I sound more professional now. I got my peas popping with my brand new sound system. So yeah, I can't complain. Pretty good weekend. Went to Texas Roadhouse on Friday. That hit the spot. That was bomb. Their rolls are incredible. Got a margarita the size of my head. That was delicious. And what else did I do? I don't think I really did anything besides watching a whole bunch of hockey, watching a little bit of college basketball here and there. You know, we've got Frozen 4 in swing right now. Michigan absolutely pummeled. Who do they play? Cornell? Whoever. Oh, Colgate. They play Colgate. Yep. They lit up our goaltender of the future, Carter Gylander, so thanks a lot for that, Michigan. But, yeah, pretty good weekend. A lot of sports going on, and can't really complain.
Yeah. No, nice, Leslie. Yeah, happy birthday, buddy. I didn't know you were older than me. I'm glad to know that. I'm not the oldest one anymore.
Yeah, I'm like 90 years older than you, I think.
All right, around there, yeah.
Someone else in the comments can figure that out.
Yeah. So, Leslie, once again, we're unfortunately not here with Derek, but we do have some good news. Once I can figure out how to share my screen with y'all, we wanted to make an announcement, if you guys had not already heard, that we have our own Spotify account. So for those of you that are not familiar with Spotify, if you don't have an account, that's okay. It is free. You can go ahead and sign up for one. If you don't, if you like watching us on YouTube, great. You can keep watching us on there. But these are for the people who kind of want to change it up, for those of you who want to close your phone while still being able to listen to us. So here's a good resource for you to be able to do it. And you can still watch our videos on here as well. So go ahead and check us out. Give us a follow. And yeah. There you have it. We finally figured it out, everyone. How does that make you feel, Leslie?
News. Very exciting news. It won't be long until Spotify offers us a Joe Rogan contract, so let's get that money flowing, baby. But yeah, I'm happy to be on there. So now we have two forms that you can watch our videos. And the nice thing about Spotify is if you're just in your car somewhere or you don't want to watch the video, you can close and lock your phone, and it'll still play audio. So I know for some people like myself, I always love listening to things on Spotify just because it is that easy way of just locking your phone. You're not going to tank your battery watching something on YouTube. And you can listen to it pretty much whatever you want to do throughout your day. You can listen to it while you're driving, listen to it while you're eating, whatever you want to do. So, yeah, it's very exciting news.
So we're happy to have that. Make sure to give us a follow and rate us 5 stars, if you will. 5. That many. Let's go ahead and kick things off. Let's go ahead and just kind of run down the list of things that we're going to talk about. We're going to start off with some Red Wings news, around the league news. Then we'll go ahead and jump right into the Thursday's game against the St. Louis Blues. And then jumping back into Saturday's game against the Flyers, where the Red Wings just basically didn't show up. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into things with some Red Wings news. Last episode, Derek and I missed that Adam Erne was out due to injury. I believe he actually managed to come back that game, and I could be wrong. Nope, he came back. He was bad, just like everyone else on the team on Saturday. So, yeah, we missed that last episode, so sorry about that. Husso was out due to lower body injury. He's considered day-to-day. Alex Nedeljkovic was recalled on emergency loan from Grand Rapids Griffins to the Detroit Red Wings for Thursday's game. I almost called them the Detroit Red Grand Rapids Griffins. Oh, boy.
That's pretty much what they are at this point.
It's going to be one of those episodes. And you're right. Yeah, they basically are the Grand Rapids
Really
Red
not
Wings.
even the wrong answer.
Yeah. Also news, Filip Zadina out with a lower body injury. That was announced Friday. Considered day-to-day, won't play against the Flyers. He did not. And then for other Red Wings news, which you can consider for around the league news, Rogle was knocked out of the playoffs today to Leslie. Supposedly, we both got it wrong. I thought I was right. I thought it was Skellefteå, but I guess it's more like Kaleftia, the Estes silence.
Yeah,
after listening to it.
in a different way. Like, I was watching the broadcast in English, and they were saying it. I don't think I could even repeat it, because I listened to it, and I thought they were talking about a different team for a second. I was like, wait, that's how you say that? That's wacky. So, we do not speak Swedish on this podcast, unfortunately. Maybe we'll take up some lessons. I am still trying to master Spanish, so one thing at a time. But we'll get there.
I forgot that you did Spanish and all that, buddy. You and Ramsey always went at it.
Yeah.
And Kenny.
I know, and he would show up to like half the classes and half the tests.
So, around the league news. NCAA hockey tournament began on Thursday, March 23rd. We also, once again, did not cover that in the last episode, so we do apologize. And Leslie already kicked that off with Michigan University playing against Colgate. I believe that was on Friday, buddy, if I'm not mistaken. And they ended up beating Colgate 11-1. Right. And Luke Hughes ended up having a 5-point game. Nuts. Insane. So let's go ahead and talk about the other games. We won't dive deep into those games because the score pretty much is the only thing that matters. So we'll start on the left. Minnesota versus Canisius. Oh, boy.
I think it's Canisius.
Oh, boy. I'll go with what you said. Minnesota wins 9-2, advancing them. St. Cloud State beats Minnesota State 4-0, who then Minnesota ends up beating in the next round, and they get to go on to the semifinals. Moving down, Denver versus Cornell. Cornell upsets Denver 2-0. Same thing. I would say same thing with Boston University against Western Michigan, but I believe Boston was ranked a little bit higher. Boston won 5-1.
Yeah, they were.
Boo! Go Broncos. Go Broncos.
Yeah, go Broncos. Would have been nice if they showed up in that game, but whatever.
Yeah.
Lane Hudson pretty much just put on a one-man show, so that's cool.
Yeah, he killed it for him. So then Boston versus
Montreal's
Cornell.
happy about that guy.
Yeah, they were Boston versus Cornell. Boston beats Cornell 2-1. So then Boston plays Minnesota on April 6th. That time is still to be announced. And then once again, Michigan beats Colgate 11-1. Penn State beats Michigan Tech 8-0. Michigan right now is currently playing Penn State. It's 7:36 p.m. as we record. They just entered the second period, trying to see who goes on to the semifinals. Quinnipiac then plays against Merrimack. Quinnipiac wins 5-0. Harvard versus Ohio State. Ohio State wins 8-1. They then go and play Quinnipiac, who wins 4-1. And Quinnipiac is now waiting to see who wins the Michigan-Penn State game to play in the semifinals. Once again, on 4-6 to be announced on the time. Leslie, if Michigan makes it in, out of these four teams, Minnesota, Boston, Michigan, let's just say that they'll win, and Quinnipiac, who do you got?
Dude, I just looking at like the rosters of these teams and just the pure like, I don't want to say NHL experience, but just, you know, like the pedigree of player they have. This is Michigan's tournament to lose. They have an incredibly stacked team. I mean, you mentioned it, Luke Hughes, Adam Fantilli, Gavin Brindley, who both those guys I just mentioned, they are draft eligible next year, so you could see one of those guys on the Red Wings. You know, we'll need a little bit of luck to get Fantilli, but Gavin Brindley is definitely an option. I'd like to see him taken with the Islanders pick, because it'll probably be right around there, but, you know, that's a problem for the future. And who else is on there? Mackie Samoskevich, who I believe is a Florida prospect. I could be wrong, but just look at all those names on there, man. I mean, that's got to be the most stacked team left. Of course, they haven't won their game yet, but I definitely put them as the favorite in this game for sure. I don't think I can name you one player on Penn State, but yeah, this is definitely Michigan's tournament to lose. They should have won it last year. I don't know what happened. It was really kind of a collapse last year, but one game that really interested me is the Denver game, losing to Cornell. What the hell happened there? Denver, I mean, they were the champions last year, and of course they have Shai Buium, Carter Mazur, some other guys that have been drafted that I can't think of off the top of my head, but the two I mentioned, they're the only ones that matter anyways. They're Red Wings prospects, but
Right.
What happened there, man? That was crazy. 2-0? Get shut out against Cornell? Like, how does that happen?
They just looked way better defensively overall based on what I saw. I mean, they just were not giving Denver any opportunities. They were doing really well at just closing them down. It was insane. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
They
it was
smothered them the whole game. Yep.
it sucks to see that Mazur and Buium are out, but like you said, they won last year, so that's good to see. They have that. That doesn't
They have that
depreciate their
experience.
value. Yeah, no, but the experience as well is just even making it in the tournament alone, I think says a lot. But yeah, for me, I guess I would have to go with Michigan as well if they end up beating Penn State. If they don't, Minnesota, I guess. At that point, I don't really have.
Who's left.
Yeah, I don't really have anyone else that I can pick if Michigan gets knocked out since I'm a Michigan guy.
Minnesota
I'm a
does
Michigan
have a
fan.
very stacked team. I will say that. They've got Matthew Nyes, and I'm blanking on the other guys. I literally just looked at it earlier today, so I apologize to those players, but I do know Matthew Nyes is on there. Oh, Logan Cooley is another one of them. And then there's a third guy who is a pretty highly ranked prospect who I can't think of right now, but I'd say out of the 4 teams besides Michigan, they're definitely the most stacked roster. But yeah, I don't see how you couldn't go with Michigan in this tournament. I mean, just really based on Adam Fantilli alone, he's having a season for the ages. He's over 60 points in the NCAA right now. And I think he's still about like 5 points shy of Jack Eichel's record. I don't know if he wins this game and they've got 2 more games to play. If they can get into the national championship, I could absolutely see him eclipsing that point total. Without a doubt.
So, I got to ask you the question. What's next with Mazur and Buium? Do you think that they signed their ELCs? It's already been a few days. You'd thought that, they take the weekend, maybe by Sunday that they might come over and sign them, speak with Yzerman, but maybe they just want to take a little more time to process the loss and then just their future, So you think that their ELC contracts are going to be signed before the end of the season or even in the summer?
Yeah, I think they're both going to sign. I personally think that Mazur is not going to return for another season at Denver. There's nothing else that he has to prove. I know to a lot of these prospects that play in college, the way it is with GMs now is they like to see those guys stay and complete their schooling before they go up to the big club, which I like seeing that. It places an importance on education. They're not just in the OHL playing hockey. This is also a university where they can learn some real life skills, and God forbid if hockey doesn't work out, they have something else to fall back on. So I could definitely see that, but I think they'll both sign. I think Buium will return to the university, really just based on how loaded with lefty prospects we have, and there's really a bit of a logjam. So I don't see him really making the team in the next few years just based on all those guys ahead of him. So I think it would serve him pretty well to go and finish out his college career and then move on to whatever it is, Grand Rapids or maybe even the Red Wings if he's good enough to make it out of training camp. But I do expect both of them to sign in the summer, their ELCs.
Yeah, and I'll join you on that. I do expect them both to sign their ELCs. Buium going back to Denver, I don't think he'll do that after signing his ELC. Worst case, you probably send him down in Toledo. I know that left-handed D is something that we're pretty full of. Not trying to go too far off topic, but this offseason, I think that we'll probably end up moving 1 or 2 of those left-handed D prospects that we have, whether that's Buium or someone else, and then that's how you create room. It's not that he's not good. He's very good at his job. He does very well, and that's how he was able to win a championship last year, right? So, yeah, I mean, once again, I think that they'll both sign. Where they end up, we'll just have to wait and see once again. There's a good opportunity that Mazur could make the jump right away next season. And then once again, it's just tough. I'm not Yzerman, so I just really don't know because like you said, we have a lot of those left-handed D-men. Seems like we talk about that every episode, but it can't be spoken enough because it's just confusing what's the game plan overall with all these left-handed defensemen because they're such a hot commodity in the league right now. Whatever.
I mean, that's what makes Buium a good prospect, and not only that, but a good trade piece too. If there's a guy you want to target in the offseason and just really go after, I've been thinking a lot about what some teams are going to do when they miss the playoffs. There's a lot of scenarios where we could trade for some pretty high-profile guys, but we'll have to see. We have to wait and see how that shakes out at the end of the season. But yeah, I think that should really be one of the biggest priorities this offseason is just seeing what's on the market, kind of feeling out some teams, seeing who would be willing to relocate, and try and go get a high-end goal scorer. I mean, that's really, besides right D, that's the one hole plaguing this team right now. And I honestly feel like with right D, you would rather develop a young guy and fill that role versus getting goal scoring. I mean, you want a guy who's experienced and has done that before. I think about a guy like Kyle Connor in Winnipeg. He's a Michigan native. It'll be interesting to see what they do if they miss the playoffs. Maybe they want to reload a little bit and retool. But again, that's a topic for a future episode. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But I really think that's what Yzerman should be focusing on the most this offseason. Get a high-end scorer who can play with Larkin.
Leslie just wants to go really off the topics. He wants to jump in the summertime and just start creating chaos with the
Dude,
who Yzerman wants to go after.
Degrees today, the sun was shining. I'm already in summer mode. Let's go, baby.
No, I agree with you.
Mode. I'm ready to go tarps off.
No, I feel you though. No, I'll touch on what you said a little bit. This isn't exactly what I thought we would talk about, but just to touch on that, yeah, I agree with you that I do think that he should be looking at teams that are making it in the playoffs, aren't doing anything in the playoffs, and they need to shake things up a little bit. And that's when Yzerman comes in, swoops in, do what you got to do. Or you go and target the teams that need cap help, where you're like, hey, I got these prospects that come in at cheap. Give me this player that costs X amount so that way you have more cap and then you can go sign another player. Those are the scenarios I'm kind of looking for. But yeah, we'll save the rest for a summer episode because there's not going to be anything to talk about except for whatever we can create.
I figured I'd give all you guys a little sneak preview.
Little sneak peek. Just
a little sneak. You guys deserve it.
You guys do deserve it. So let's go ahead and jump right into Thursday's game against the St. Louis Blues. So yes, they did play back-to-back. The Red Wings won on Tuesday 3-2, like we discussed on Wednesday's episode. The Red Wings then lost 4-3 against the St. Louis Blues. Red Wings played a really strong first period with Hellberg in net and Ned in net. But once St. Louis started scoring, the Red Wings ultimately just gave up until they let them score 4 unanswered goals. Can't speak, like I said. By the third goal, Husso, Magnus Hellberg was pulled to then let Nedeljkovic in. And Leslie, tell me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Nedeljkovic let in the first shot that he had on him to make it 4 unanswered goals.
But man, what a bad draw for like your first game back in whatever it's been 4 or 5 months. Your first scoring opportunity coming back in net is a clear-cut breakaway going towards you. That's gotta suck.
Yeah, that part's not on him, so I can't really blame him for not making the save, but you probably should be making those saves.
I mean, you should be, but then you think about, like, you can't really put a goalie in who's been in the AHL all season, hasn't really exactly lit that league on fire, and he's very cold to the NHL game. He hasn't played since, what's it been, like mid-November when he got sent down? So I can't really blame the guy, honestly. That's really more of just like on the team and defensive breakdowns. Like you shouldn't be hanging your goalie out to dry, giving up a clear-cut breakaway like that. So
no,
after that goal, he seemed to settle in a little bit. He looked solid. I really can't blame him too much for that. I don't know. It's just like, what do you really expect when like you're going through a tandem of Hellberg, who has been on waivers 3 times this year, and Nedeljkovic, who just came up from the AHL? You can't really expect too much of that tandem.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the timing that he was pulled to, but it's against a bad St. Louis Blues team. I get it that the team can't leave him out to dry, but it's not like it was a top shelf goal. I'm pretty sure it went 5-hole, so it was nothing too spectacular that he couldn't save. I'm there with you. The team definitely shouldn't be hanging out to dry, but he's got to be able to make those saves. I get it that you haven't played in the NHL. He was doing well in Grand Rapids Griffins. He wasn't, he was putting up above 900. That's part of the reason why he got called up here. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why he got called up too, was because, well, he's doing pretty well, or else they probably would have called up the guy who was playing in Toledo just as well as Kosa was.
Yeah.
Who knows? But, and we'll talk more about Ned, the next topic about Saturday's game, because that's when he started. He got his first start in a really long time, like you alluded to. But the bright spot in this game was that Simon Edvinsson got his first goal, but at the cost of not being able to celebrate it because Matt Luff stole that moment from him. Accidentally, rightfully so, but still, he took that away from the 20-year-old giant defender. But we're happy for you, Simon. Congratulations, buddy. We're very happy to see that first goal from you. And it was good for the Red Wings to announce that after they finally figured out that it was his. And you can't really blame Matt Luff too much, plays like that. You just automatically assume it went in. You're right there. It goes in. It's mine. I'm just going to celebrate. And that's someone who doesn't get goals a lot either.
Simon probably didn't even know that he scored it because it just bounced off someone. Like, for all he knew, he was like, oh, that's Luff's goal, whatever.
Yeah, he didn't really look to, he didn't get excited like Matt Luff did. So it was like, I don't think he truly knew that he put it in. He probably just assumed that he got an assist. The one thing that kind of, did they ever get the puck for him? Because I know they were talking about that. As soon as it went in, like, someone's got to go get that puck.
I think eventually they did, but it's not even just like, even if it wasn't a goal, that still would have been his first point in the NHL. So that's still a milestone. It's, you know, it's different than a goal, but it did end up being his first goal. So that's pretty cool. And that was definitely the one thing I noticed was, like, we used to have Tyler Bertuzzi on the team. Every milestone that a player passed, like, he knows, like, the players in the locker room know that stuff. They know when a young guy scores their first goal. They know when, whatever it is, like a veteran is playing 1,000 games. That stuff doesn't go unnoticed. So Tyler was always the guy to go and get the puck, give it right to the guy, no matter what he did. And that's what I miss about him. But I think he did eventually get that puck.
Well, that's good to hear.
He's not doing so well in Boston, which I have mixed emotions on that. I'm kind of happy to see that because I don't think he'll return, but I don't know. Want him to thrive.
I mean, yeah. So let's go ahead and continue on. We'll talk more about Simon Edvinsson. He got some playing time with Mo Seider towards the end of the third. I thought that was really great to see. That's kind of a little bit of the future.
I can see that.
I think all the fans really like seeing that, two giant defensemen on the ice at the same time to wreak havoc on your back end for you. That was really great to see. And Simon Edvinsson this entire game probably was one of the better ones. Jake Wallman had a really good game too. I know Dylan Larkin got another point, so he keeps on racking up the points. Pretty sure he's on like a 10-game point streak currently or something crazy like that. But
well, he's off it now because nobody scored yesterday.
You got me there. And we were going to get to that. Stop jumping ahead of me, my guy. But you're good. No, I'm just kidding. So, but yeah, I would say, bright spot was definitely Simon Edvinsson. Jake Wallman got a goal. Chiasson got the goal. Wasn't a power play goal. But this guy, Leslie, Derek and I talked about it on the last episode. You weren't there, so I got to ask you. You're going to give this guy a contract?
Dude, it's getting harder and harder to argue against not giving him a contract. It really is.
It is.
You can still sign him for not a big amount of money, so I'm totally fine with it. If they want to give him a 1-year deal, put him in the bottom 6, maybe he could just stay on the 4th line. I am totally fine with it. It really does kind of depend on who in our young guys in the organization. It really depends on what kind of leap they're going to make, and if Yzerman sees that they're ready to take a bigger role. I think even if a guy like Soderblom was going to come up, you could still re-sign Chase on and just kind of mix them around the lineup and see where they fit. So I really think that there's no risk involved with signing him to a minimum deal. You really have everything to gain, so let's get it done. Pen to paper.
Get it done. Didn't even snap my finger. But get it done, Yzerman.
Done, baby.
Get her done. Yeah, the league minimum. Do whatever you got to do to sign him. Make him a 4th line player. It would be great. Just minimize his role. Put him on the second power play unit. Done deal. That's a buddy that you got on the roster that you need to add. So, to be the negative Nancy now of this game, Hellberg was one of them. Nedeljkovic was the other. But now I got to kind of do it to Simon Edvinsson. The only issues that I noticed from this game. Maybe I should start with a good. Simon Edmondson looked, as he keeps on playing, it's his third game. As the games go on, he just looks better and better and better. You could see the skill is there, and you could see why Yzerman drafted him. But I will say now that the bad thing is that what he brings to the table in terms of good and what his skills are and his reach, you know, that's also the bad part, is that he had 2 penalties against him. And I believe both of them were holding, or at least one of them was. And that was because he just has that long reach and, you know, tries to poke check it when he gets beat a little bit. And that burns him. While some might say that was a good play, a good penalty to make, I kind of beg to differ, because that player didn't get a shot. It was just kind of like, it just ended up being a penalty. I just thought it was a bad penalty. And then there was another one too that I can't remember about, but that one wasn't good either. So Simon Edmondson, once again, like I said in the last episode, he just needs to work on the fact that he is bigger. And I think he just needs to continue figuring out the pace of other players in the league. And this was his first game against the Blues, because he didn't play against them in the first game due to injury. So, yeah. Other than that, though, like I said, I thought he was the best player on the ice. Joe Veleno also showed some really nifty stick work. He keeps on catching my eye. Yeah, and he ended up getting some first line duties in the Flyers game. That really didn't work out very well. We'll talk about that as well. But no, he is someone who looks like he wants to take on a responsibility to produce more offense. And he actually went out there and tried it in St. Louis. There were 2 times I saw him do that. I think it was just all in one sequence where he just did some dirty dangles, made a shot, missed it, and it just kept on continuing, where he did it again and missed again as well. But that whole entire sequence was just like 3 scoring opportunities right then and there in the span of like 30 seconds. It was great to see. So, Leslie, thoughts about the game overall?
Well, we're still talking about the Blues game.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fine game. You know, they scored 2 quick goals to open up the game, and silly me, I was thinking that it was going to be a blowout for the Red Wings. I guess I should stop expecting things at this point in the season, after we've already sold off the whole team, basically. But I don't know. I didn't think it was a terrible game for the team as a whole. Hellberg definitely let in some stinkers. There was that first goal where it looked like he was screened, but I think he just flat out missed it. And then the other 2, it's hard to make excuses for him at this point. Like, I think I even said in our group chat that he does not look like he belongs in the NHL. And that might be a little harsh. I think you could still re-sign him to a cheap deal and leave him as your backup. You also may be able to just have him and Nedeljkovic battle out in camp so you get to that spot. So, I don't know. I'd be fine with bringing both of them back and just creating competition for him. But overall, it wasn't a terrible game. It was definitely better than the Philadelphia game. I actually think they played better in this game than the first St. Louis game, which is ironic because they actually ended up winning that game. But this is pretty much what we can get used to for the last, whatever it is, 9 or 10 games they have remaining, because we have 1 goal on our mind, and you know what that is, Zach? It rhymes with Bonner Cadard. That's it.
All hail Magic Conch. Let's go for Bedard.
Come on, Bedard. Come on home. He saw all those photoshops on Twitter. He was like, you know what? I look pretty good in the wing wheel. Let's see if we can rig this in my favor.
Red's a good color on him for sure.
It makes his eyes pop. Looks real good in that. But I mean that's really all there is left at this point. Just try and grind out another win or 2 just for morale. Try and see what you have from Evanson, which he looks pretty good. You were talking about with his responsibility in the game and taking penalties. I don't really know what that's about, because he doesn't really seem like from Grand Rapids, he doesn't seem like the type of guy who's been taking a lot of penalties. Maybe they're just calling things a little tighter during the games in the NHL versus the AHL, and there's things that he's done in the minors that he's realizing he can't get away with at the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I think with time and experience, he's going to iron that stuff out of his game. He's not a dirty player by any means. I think it's just like what you said. He uses his long reach a lot and really relies on that, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. I don't know. It really depends on who the officiating crew is when you're playing. There's some games where they're calling everything they can. Other games where it's a little looser and you can do whatever you want. So, I don't know. I think that stuff is kind of subjective. I think overall he's looked incredible. I mean, Lalonde has even said that he's been the best player on the ice. Not just the best defensive player, but the best player in general. And that's incredible to hear that. So, I think he's a lock to make the team out of camp. Of course, that's all up to him. But if it is Simon season next year, I'm excited for it, and I'm here for it. Let's go, Simon.
Let's go, buddy. So to close it out on the Blues game, though, the Red Wings just really need to stop being hard on themselves after giving up some goals, because they were up 2-0 in the first, and then that's when they let in 4 unanswered goals, and then that carried into the Flyers game. No Zadina. Ned gets his first start since December 8th, 2022. No Simon Edvinsson. He was sat due to, I guess it's still due to injury reasons, but also probably due to because they want to maybe minimize the amount of games he plays. I'm just going to assume right now that he's probably up with the team for the rest of the season. And if this is the continuous trend that they're doing where he's playing every other game, that's fine with me, because he's getting the experience still watching from up above. Unfortunately, this probably wasn't a good example going against the Flyers and losing 3-0. But whatever happened to him against St. Louis carried into the Flyers, and this stuff just needs to stop. They looked so bad against the Flyers. Like, I don't even know what else to say other than that. They just looked really bad. And that's what we were saying in our group chat, that the Flyers looked really bad. And the Red Wings were just that much more bad. They had their chances, but they couldn't finish. And that's just been the story of this whole entire season for the Red Wings, is that they just can't finish. And that is a huge issue. Once again, I don't know if they just felt bad from the other night and that just transitioned into this game, but there's no excuse why you can't go in and at least put up 1 goal against a really bad Philadelphia Flyers who are behind you in the standings. And even in terms of production or talent on your roster, I would say Detroit still has the upper hand. Maybe they needed Simon Edvinsson. We clearly must miss Husso that much.
Oh, for sure we did.
You could have put Hellberg back in, and they didn't. They went with Ned. So you asked this in the group chat. Ask it right now. Are the Red Wings?
Wait, what did I ask?
Well, actually, you didn't ask a question, but you said this. This was your statement. I don't know if this was word for word. It's games like these that make me think that the Red Wings truly are trying to tank. You said it somehow like that. Maybe it was Derek. Anyways, to go off on that. So to go off on that, it's yes and no with me regarding that. The management, I think, is in that mindset, and that's why Yzerman is making the moves that he is making and bringing up the players that he's bringing up. But you can also say that there's injuries in Grand Rapids as well, so that's why you're getting the type of talent that you are. But he knows what he's doing. Now, the players and the coaches, their job is to go out there and win. Clearly, they're not doing that, but that's not because they don't want to win. You are not a good athlete or a good professional athlete or a good leader if you go out there saying, let's lose so that way we can get this guy, this 17-year-old kid, and take us to the promised land.
It's not even that. It's like, let's go out there and lose so we have a slight chance at getting him. It's not even like, let's go get him. You may not get him.
So I don't see the players doing that, but yeah, Leslie, I think now it's tank season. So either you're team tank or you're not. Me, personally, I'm more so on the team tank, but I still want wins. Like, I want this team to be competitive. And, the St. Louis Blues game, competitive. The Flyers game, not competitive. They went 0 for 7 on the power play. That's garbage. It's garbage. It's so bad.
I wish that was an outlier, but it's not.
We just keep on talking about this. They, like my note says, Wings lose 0-3. They really, really sucked. 0 for 7 on the power play. ... Like that's literally all I got. I can pull up this, like what the players did and everything. Larkin played 22 minutes. He had 9 minutes on the power play.
Dude, I mean,
he finished the
I
game
don't
with
know.
2 shots on that.
I mean, when I said that in a group chat, I was just being cheeky. But, like, yeah, the team does not look very good. I think it's really just the fact that there's 9 or 10 games left, and I think by now they're at least 8 or 9 points out of the second wildcard spot, so you need a miracle run to even go get it. So I think this is just the team. You're seeing a depleted team after the deadline, which, I mean, that happens to pretty much every team that sells. I don't know one team that got better after selling immediately. So that's just how it looks. It's the end of the year. They're thinking about what they're going to do on the course. They're thinking about their family vacations to Bermuda. Larkin's thinking about his boat on Lake St. Clair. He's going to open it up and go tubing a little bit. The boys are in off-season mode, and I can't really blame them because you look at the standings and the way they performed against not only, like, bad teams. Like, these aren't even good teams they've been losing to. They're flat-out bad teams that are right in the thick of the Bedard race with them, which I guess that's a silver lining right there. Every loss has those teams go up in the standings, and the Red Wings fall a little bit to get better odds. So it's even like when you lose, you still win, I guess. It feels weird to even think about it that way, but it's true. There's just not a whole lot to play for at this point. It's nice to see Evanson up there and see what he can do, but that's really the only highlight you're going to get from the end of the season. It's just, we're like fans and players and coaches alike, we're all sitting here biding our time until the off season where we can reload a little bit, see what happens in the draft, see what trades you can make. That's pretty much the mentality right now. That's their focus, is just win the off season and ice a better team next year. That's really all it is.
I will say that there's 2 things that should be happening. One, the players on the team are still fighting for one of 2 things, I should say, with this one. A spot on the roster for next year, and then gaining a contract next year with this team if you decide that you want to be a Red Wing next year. So those players that are expiring contracts, UFAs this season, they're showing to either Steve Yzerman, the Red Wings, or other teams in the league that these players deserve contracts and paydays more than what they currently make.
I think that's
so
true,
there's
but
that.
There's also some expiring free agents where I think Steve Yzerman at this point has already made up his mind on who he's going to re-sign and who he's going to let walk. Like guys like Pius Suter, I think he should re-sign him, and he's probably already made up his mind on what he's going to do with that. A lot of these guys, like, they are still playing for contracts, like the minor leaguers are playing to hopefully see if they can get a spot on the roster, even though that's a long shot. But I think Yzerman has really made up his mind on what he wants to do next year with those guys. There's guys that play roles on this team that could easily be filled by the guys you drafted, the young guys that are going to develop into better players. So I think he's already made up his mind with that.
In terms of what he already has currently, I think you're right. He probably already has his mind set. He has his mind set on who he wants to sign and bring back and who he doesn't. Yeah, players like Pius Suter, I'd probably want to bring him back as well. 4th line player. I don't know what he's going to ask for. I probably wouldn't give him more than 2 years. That's what we gave him to originally, was a 2-year deal. So I'm not going to give him anything more than that.
Probably not going to ask for much more than what he's already making. I'd say probably 3.5 at most.
It depends.
Like $200K more than he's making now.
I'm like, you have to look at. I'm not mushmouth right now. I know. So it's like, what do I want to say right now? So it's like, I'm not trying to be that guy to say, look at his point production. Does that look like someone who deserves $3.5 million? That's not what I'm trying to do. But you have to take that into consideration, right? Is that if you were going to pay him, you're paying him for his PK production. He's super good on the PK. I love the way that he applies pressures on players. He forechecks hard. He applies pressure really well on those players. And he's a short-handed goal guy. He loves to get on those breakaways and steal the pucks and get on those, you know. So that's one thing that I think that you would probably be paying him for, is to be that on the top penalty killing unit with Larkin, and then insert your 2 defensemen. So that's probably what you're going to pay him for. So 3.5, okay. You know, and that also comes to Yzerman, how much he is going to spend in this offseason and how much of the cap floor that they have to meet with. You know, they have over $30 million in cap space that they have to use this summer. So are they going to use it all? No. Would it be nice? I guess, but don't do it with a bunch of free agent players, because like we talked about, the pool is really bad in free agency this year. So just be careful. I guess I would rather see him sign a player that we're familiar with than get a player that we really don't know too much about. So final thoughts on the Flyers game?
It was bad, stinky, poo-poo, doo-doo, and I don't ever want to watch a game like that again. So let's get Bedard so we don't have to.
Well, let's just go ahead and take a quick standings update look. And
can you guys tell the theme of these last episodes?
Sadness and
Sense
pain.
of a pattern.
Sadness and pain.
We are in pain.
So, as of today, while we record on March 26th, the Red Wings are 24th in the standings out of 32. So they're now currently in the 9th spot. St. Louis jumped ahead of them. They have 72 points. We have 71, and we are tied with Vancouver now with 71 points. We are ahead of them technically. Leslie, maybe you can tell me why. I think it's the regulation. Yeah, regulation wins. We have more regulation wins. We have 24. They have 21. So we're ahead of them because of that, but we're tied in points. Philadelphia is behind us with 3 points. They have 68. Arizona has 67. They tied with the Colorado Avalanche today. I was ripping on my buddy Chase today. I was like, you're losing to an ECHL team, you Disneyland franchise yourselves. Colorado Avalanche. Hate you guys. Before I forget, shout out. Today's the anniversary of the fight night at the Joe. Darren McCarty, I know you're probably not watching this or listening, but we love you, dude. So we love you, Darren. Thanks for giving us those memories. I watched your clip and everything today. It was fantastic. It gives me chills every single time. So if you guys have not seen the video of the fight night at the Joe with Joe Sakic and all those other players, go watch it. It was great.
It's good stuff.
But yeah, and even Montreal. Yeah. Yeah. And then even Montreal, they have 64 points, so they're only 7 points behind us. This is a race at this point. The Red Wings very much are in a position where if they just keep on losing, not that we want them to, but if you're going to go and look at the Red Wings' next couple games, who did I say that they played?
To be honest, they're not going to do it just by losing every game. Other teams around them have to win. Like,
yeah,
the Arizonas, who else is them? Philadelphia, Montreal. We have to get some wins there from them. So that's also another part of the equation. And also, you have Ottawa and Buffalo who are falling in the standings too. So
yeah,
it's definitely a race for sure, and it's neck and neck.
I just don't foresee us actually getting past those teams though, because I'm looking at let's just name off the next couple of games. You got Pittsburgh, you got Carolina. So Pittsburgh on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Thursday, March 30th against the Carolina Hurricanes. Then on Friday, March 31st, they play against the Winnipeg Jets. 3 teams that are prime playoff teams. The Red Wings. Yeah. Not a playoff team. But you're right. We need a lot to go right in order for us to continuously fall down in the standings. So you're right. Yeah, Buffalo hasn't been doing that well as of late. But they have 2 wins in a row. Florida's lost 3 in a row. Washington just lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins yesterday. Ottawa's on a 1-game losing streak. But you look at the Philadelphia Flyers and the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver Canucks have been on the tear since the trade deadline. They have 2 wins right now. Philadelphia's on a 3-game win streak. But then you just look at, don't bank on Anaheim, Chicago, Columbus, or San Jose to do anything. Those teams they're fighting over whoever has the best odds at getting Bedard at this point. Who wants the 20% that much more?
There's no way the Wings are falling down past them. I mean, that is the basement of the basement right there. You can't be that bad as those teams unless you determine from the start of the season you're going to tank. And you sold off like Lucas Raymond, Jonathan Berggren, Mo Seider. Take your pick. Like, that's how you get as bad as those teams. And there's no chance the Wings are getting that bad and falling that far down.
So yeah, just keep an eye out on the standings. That's one of the only things that we have left to
That's about it.
continue on as Red Wings.
I do tankathon like twice a day. And sometimes I get number 1. I usually get number 3, which I guess that's fine too. But God,
I say it right now. I'd be okay with picking 3. I'd be okay with 2.
Dude, I'd be fine anywhere in the top 5.
Yeah.
Top 6, really. I mean, this draft is so loaded that, like, honestly, if you're in the top 10, you're going to get a stud either way. So, in my mind, like, it'll suck if the Wings are picking 8th or 6th or 7th again. But it's not going to be like recent years. Like, you're not going to be picking... I mean, I love Simon Edvinsson, but the top 6 in this draft blows prospects like Simon Edvinsson out of the water. That's how high
it's not Filip Zadina. It is not
Philip Zadina. No.
You know, it's not like a Michael Rasmussen draft either.
And we love all these players. So don't get it twisted. We love all these players, but this top 10 of the draft, it's nothing compared to those previous drafts. It's so loaded, it's not even funny.
So I think we can about wrap it up there, Leslie, in terms of today's episode. But one other thing, well, two more things. Let's actually talk more about the Rogle situation and them getting knocked out. Marco Kasper, William Wallinder. We discussed how Marco Kasper was going to make that jump into North America this upcoming season. You and I talked about it, and we'll talk about it here right now, that you told me that he doesn't plan on coming up and finishing out some games in North America. That's completely okay. He needs to finish out whatever, take the rest, take the extra couple weeks than you would over here to gain some rest, have fun, have a great summer, get back to training as soon as possible. But when's William Wallinder going to come over? Do you expect him to make that jump as well? Or do you expect him to stay with Rogle?
I don't expect him to stay with Rogle. The two situations are really different because Marco Kasper not only plans on joining the team for the World Championship, he's also still in school over there. And I know he places a big importance on finishing school. So I think that's another factor for keeping him over there, which that won't keep him in Sweden past the fall. Like, he has every opportunity to come over, go in training camp, and hopefully make the team out of training camp. So I don't think we're going to see another SHL season out of Kasper, and I don't think so out of Wallinder either. I think Wallinder, his next move is probably just going to come right over and join the Griffins. I don't know how many games they have remaining, so he really may not even get some playing time this year, but he'll definitely be there next year. I'd be shocked if he goes back to Rogle. He has nothing to prove in the SHL, as does Kasper. So they're both going to come over and try and make the team. Most likely he'll be in Grand Rapids. I think Wallinder is definitely going to be in Grand Rapids just based on, our lefty situation. But he definitely has a really good shot of making the team not next year, but the year after. And you never know. He could be a midseason too. Maybe he's just so good you can't justify keeping him down there anymore. But, that's up to him. So we will definitely see these guys in training camp this summer. 100%.
Yeah. So, I agree with you. I don't think there's anything left for him to prove over there. He's been over in the Swedish Hockey League now. This is his second season. So, 52 games, 23 points, 8 goals, 15 assists. Very good player. So let's go ahead and dive into their playoffs. Marco Kasper. Oh, those were Marco Kasper's numbers. My bad, people. So Wallinder's numbers: 50 games, 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points. 9 playoff games. He's got a goal, 2 assists for 3 points. Marco Kasper, 9 games, 3 assists. Not bad. It's Marco Kasper's 18, Wallinder's 20, almost 21. He'll be 21 this summer. So that's good for your defenseman. I wouldn't expect anything, a point per game player. No, I wouldn't have expected that. So Marco Kasper, granted all three of those assists came in one game. He plays a significant role being that third line centerman. Playing against men in a tournament like that, I mean, we saw what Mo Seider had to go through playing with Rogle and getting far and deep into the playoff series with them and losing in the championship. It's hard for a kid. But this is good experience like we talked about.
From the little bit that I saw from their games, it really looked like Kasper was being used not more of like going out there and being like a point, like a goal scorer, but he really looked like he was being utilized for his two-way game, which is really strong. I think it's an underlooked part of his game. It's very underrated. And whenever I saw him on the ice, he would either be getting into board battles or he'd be, crashing the net. It was pretty much just him trying to go and get the puck and try and make a play. So it's nice to see that he got 3 assists. That's awesome. I wish they could have gone further in the playoffs for sure. I think a lot of us do. Just to get that, winning experience and try and compete for a championship. But from what I saw from their games, Rogle didn't look that bad, and nor did Kasper and Wallinder. So I'm excited to see both of them in North America, possibly on the Red Wings. And yeah, that's about all I had on them.
So one last thing, let's go ahead and talk about the player that you wanted to discuss before we started recording this podcast. So let's go ahead and jump over to Sebastian Cossa, since we last updated with our short mini clip episode. If you guys haven't caught that, go ahead and rewatch that. That'll update you a little bit. But ever since then, let's go ahead and jump right into his stats. In the last 10 games, he played 7 games. He let in 10 goals within those 7 games, 197 saves, 952 save percentage. My God, that's insane.
Just incredible.
In the last 5 games, he's played 4 games, starting 8 goals, so 2 goals per game average, 106 saves, 930 save percentage. That's still really freaking good. And what is it, Leslie? I believe the Toledo Walleye are on their longest winning streak ever in franchise history, and it comes at, 18 wins in a row now?
So they did just lose. I don't know if it was the last game they played, but they did just break that streak. But I think before that loss, it was at 17 or 18 games, something just absolutely insane. That probably would have broken a record in the NHL, let alone the ECHL, or at least it would have got pretty close. But yeah, that's incredible. And as far as Kossa's game, that is absolutely what you wanted to see from him when he got sent down the ECHL, because he looked really rocky in his 2 starts in Grand Rapids, and I think it had a lot of folks nervous about seeing him and just comparing him to his other draft counterpart, Jesper Wallstedt, who's lighting it up in the AHL. A lot of people had some concerns, and ever since he's been in the ECHL, he's just dominated. I mean, he's been a brick wall. I see highlights of this kid every single day. He's making fantastic saves. He doesn't even have to dive across the crease and do crazy Andrei Vasilevsky saves, because he's always in the right position, and he uses his size very, very well. He really doesn't give you any opportunity to score on him. He's just such a huge presence in that net, and you're really going to have to try something fancy to score on that guy. He's just so technically sound, always where he needs to be, always making the play he needs to make. And, I mean, this was great momentum for him to go in next season in Grand Rapids. I really hope he can replicate some of this success. It's not going to be this dramatic next year in the AHL, because that is still a step above the ECHL, but I think he's still going to be a very solid starter up there. And who knows, maybe the year after that he can get a couple games in the NHL. I don't think he'll be a regular by that time, but he could split some time, kind of like how Ned did this year. Obviously, it'll be different circumstances, but I think you can see something like that. So he's really on the right track up to the NHL. He's got some great momentum. And what I've seen from him so far, I have no doubt in my mind he'll be the franchise goaltender in. I don't want to put a timeline on it, but he will be the franchise goaltender in the future.
So let's, pardon me, let's go ahead and I didn't even know this, and I want to bring this to everyone's attention as I'm looking at this. So Sebastian Cossa, and you can find this on Elite Prospects. This is where I'm looking at it. Sebastian Cossa has played in 41 games. In those 41 games, starting, he's got a 2.44 goals against average, a 9.14 save percentage, 24 wins, 14 losses, no ties, 4 shutouts, and he is second for best save percentage in the ECHL for all goaltenders under the age of 21. Out of the I should say 5. Out of the 5 goaltenders on here, actually, I lied. 4, because the one hasn't even played a single game. I'm just now looking at that. Out of the 4, Sebastian Cossa is the only one who has played more than 30 games. The one player that has a better save percentage ahead of him has only played in 12 for the Kalamazoo Wings, a goals against with 2.34, a save percentage of 9.32, 6 wins, 6 losses. Sebastian Cossa has 41 games played. In his last, 10 games, he's sporting a 9.52.
I mean, that's just incredible. That's like,
So
I don't care what level of hockey it is. Like, some people will just like read that stat and they'll see he's playing in the ECHL. They'll scoff at that. That's impressive at any level. I don't care where you're playing. A 9.52 is absolutely bonkers. And that's a pretty healthy sample size too. 10 games. Like, that's how you know he's doing this with consistency. It's not just, oh yeah, he's got 2 shutouts in a row, but the other games he's letting in 5 goals. No, it's like every game he's either getting a shutout or letting in like 1 or 2. And that's absolutely what you want. That's the kind of consistency you want to see out of your top goaltender in the organization. I mean, that's incredible.
Let's take it a little step further, Leslie. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay. I just want to take it one step a little further. So I changed it.
You can tell how excited I am about him.
I know. Originally, like I said, I had it set for players under 21 years old in the ECHL. Why did I do that? Because we know that a lot of young players don't go to the ECHL. They either go overseas or they stay in like Canada, whatever they want to do to gain their development, or they go and play in the NCAA, right? So now I changed it to under 25. Sebastian Cossa is ranked 11th out of all goaltenders under the age of 25 years old. And all the other players that are ahead of him, none of them have played more than or started in 35 games. The next best that you can say comparison-wise is this Henrik Tikkanen of the Worcester Railers, 34 games played started in, 294 goals against, 918 save percentage. The top guy on this list is the same guy that I mentioned earlier, who is the goaltender for Kalamazoo Wings. He has the highest save percentage. The next best guy, he played in 13 with the same save percentage, so you can't even count that. Then you got these 2 players from Idaho Steelheads. You know, they average 928, 926. Cossa is this guy. He is this good. This is why Yzerman drafted him, because he has this raw athletic skill. And granted, it wasn't there during the World Juniors. It wasn't there in training camp. It wasn't there in whatever else that you want to mention out there. But he's doing it right now in the ECHL, and you can rip on the ECHL all you want, but everyone knows that every goaltender is different and they have their own timeline of development. And while if you're going to use the Jesper Wallstedt comparison, don't. Kossa's not Wallstedt and Wallstedt is not Cossa. They are their own players and they have their own developmental path that they are taking with their organizations. And it's working for both of them. And it's not to go out there and say, oh, I think Cossa is better than Wallstedt. That's not what I'm saying. I think that they're both going to be really good goaltenders. And this is something that you and I, everyone, should be excited about, because those are going to be the goaltenders we're going to be watching for the next 20 years, 15 years, however long they want to be in the league for. And we're going to watch them for a long time, duke it out, back and forth. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. And I'm right there with you, Leslie. I think Cossa is going to be our goaltender of the future. He's killing it right now. I'll be shocked if he gets playing time in the NHL, I think a couple things have to happen. Injuries, obviously, and him to shine really bright in Grand Rapids. But if we have a good back end, yeah, and if we have a good back end in Grand Rapids, maybe that'll help boost up his confidence to where he can put up the same numbers that he is in the ECHL. You never know.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins team MVP this year in the ECHL. I don't really know a whole lot about Toledo's team. I don't know if they have a more defensive scheme. I don't know if they have goal scorers who are just flying around out there. What I do know, Zach, is in 10 games he has a .952 save percentage. That's what I do know. So
that's what we know.
This crazy winning streak that they've been on, which I think has ended at about 17 or 18 games. Kosa is a gigantic part of that. And not to mention John Letheman, too. I mean, he's been a really good goaltender there, but I think he's a little bit older. So, yeah, it's fantastic. You're the kind of team success that you're seeing with Toledo, that's really what you need for a young player, regardless of position. It's fantastic for their development to just be down in wherever it is that you're playing, dominating your competition, winning game after game after game after game. That's what you need in a young prospect. You need them to win as much as possible. You need them to just build that confidence up. Keep developing your skills. Keep relying on your game. And if your game is good enough and you're developing right, you'll make it to the NHL. And that's what you need with all these guys down there, no matter where they're playing.
100%, and that's exactly what he's doing in much other prospects that we have in the Cup board. So, and we'll touch on all of those once the season ends, So stick around with us and you'll find out more about that.
Yes, sir.
So let's go ahead and wrap it up, Leslie. Final thoughts on today's episode. Actually, you know what? I lied, Leslie. Before I do that, let's go ahead and mention out the remainder of the Red Wings schedule. What we say they play on Tuesday against the Pittsburgh Penguins at 7 p.m. So we'll be able to cover that on our next recording on Wednesday. Leslie, final thoughts now. Sorry, buddy.
I did want to mention one other player, one of our bright, young, talented players of yesteryear that we traded off because we thought we could get a good return for him. Our near and dear to our heart, our darling Anthony Mantha, who we know just plays with the most effort out of any player you've ever seen. This fucking guy, let me tell you, Zach, this guy. So I was just flipping through the channels, just wanting to watch some sports, wanting to watch some hockey. I saw that the Caps were playing the Pens. I was like, oh, that'll be a fun game. That's always a fun game to watch between those two bitter rivals. So I flip it on. It's about 4 minutes left in the third period. The Caps are down by 1. And, they're attacking the net. They're really trying to tie this game up because not only are they fighting for the playoff chances, they also really hate the Pens. And they want to take it to them every chance they can. So, they're getting their chances in the offensive zone. They're firing in pucks. And eventually, they catch the goaltender lacking, and Dylan Strome buries one. Ties it up at 3. And you figure, okay, now there's a minute and a half remaining in regulation. They'll just take this to overtime, and it'll be settled there. Nope. One Anthony Mantha of Detroit Red Wings fame takes the puck in the defensive zone. I don't even know what happens to him. The best that I can explain it is his controller died. And he just had the worst giveaway I've ever seen. He coughs the puck up to Geno Malkin, which, if he's on a breakaway, I don't care what goaltender is playing against him, you're really not going to stop him. He snipes one bar down with less than a minute to go. And the Pens win the game, most likely ending the Capitals' playoff chances. And they have no one to blame but Anthony Mantha. So good job, buddy. It's nice to see that really no team won that trade. But I guess after that happened, you could say the Wings won that trade. Because, my God, you're not going to lose a game any worse than you did there. And, yeah, I just wanted to take us on a stroll down memory lane. And remember all the great contributions that Anthony Mantha made to the team. And the NHL in general.
Are those your final thoughts?
Those are my final thoughts.
My final thoughts are go Red Wings. Leslie, thanks for the recap on the Capitals Pens game. And as always, let's go for the tank And as always, for those of you that are new, thanks for joining us. Make sure you subscribe. If you're on Spotify, make sure you hit the follow button. Please rate us 5 stars. That actually really does help us out, supposedly. I'm learning. If you're on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button. Leave a comment down below as well. Let us know what you thought about the episode. Let us know if there's anything that we missed. Let us know what you think about Kosa. Let us know what you thought about Edmondson in his last 3 games. What's the plan with him moving forward? Let us know your general thoughts about the Red Wings and their last couple of games of the season. We know it's a bumpy road ahead. We'll get through it together. We promise. But as always, everyone, thanks once again for joining us. And until next time on Hockeytown University, good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. Please don't send Mantha any hate mail.